The Harrison Mansion's grand dining room gleamed with warm candlelight from the antique silver candelabras that had graced our family table for 4 generations. Dad had insisted on hosting his 60th birthday celebration at home, transforming our formal dining room into something worthy of a state dinner with white orchids, crystal stemware, and the finest china that money could buy. I sat quietly at my usual spot near the far end of the mahogany table, positioned perfectly to observe both the intimate family gathering and the oil paintings of successful Harrison ancestors that lined the silk-wallpapered walls. Their painted eyes seemed to watch over us with expressions of stern approval. Generations of judges, senators, and business magnates who had built the family legacy that defined everything about our lives. Dad commanded the head of the table like a king holding court, distinguished in his custom-tailored navy suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly mortgage payments. At 60, Judge Richard Harrison still possessed the commanding presence that had made him one of the most respected federal judges in the circuit, and tonight, surrounded by his wife and children, he was clearly in his element. 60 years, he said, raising his crystal glass of aged bourbon, and I can say with complete confidence that every decision I've made has been in service of building something lasting. This family, this legacy, this tradition of excellence that the Harrison name represents. My stepmother Evelyn beamed at him from the opposite end of the table, radiant in her emerald silk dress that showcased the diamond necklace Dad had given her for their anniversary. At 48, she still possessed the kind of beauty that required significant investment to maintain, and every detail of her appearance announced her status as the wife of one of the most powerful men in the state. My older half-brother Jonathan dominated the conversation from Dad's right side, his voice carrying the confidence that comes from following perfectly in his father's footsteps. At 30, he had just been confirmed as a state superior court judge, the youngest in the state's history, and his success was evident in everything from his Rolex presidential to the way other young attorneys sought his mentorship. The confirmation hearing went flawlessly, Jonathan was saying, adjusting his platinum cufflinks with practiced casualness. Sometimes I look at what we've accomplished as a family and realize that the Harrison tradition of judicial excellence is something truly special. Not many families can claim 4 generations of federal and state judges. His wife Caroline nodded enthusiastically, elegant in her designer cocktail dress that spoke of the lifestyle that a judge's salary and family wealth could provide. It's such an honor to be part of a family with such a distinguished legacy. Jonathan is going to continue that tradition of judicial excellence for decades to come. I continued eating my perfectly prepared prime rib, letting their familiar conversation about legal precedents and judicial appointments wash over me like expensive background music. They had no idea that the simple black dress I was wearing had been tailored by the same designer who dressed Supreme Court justices, or that the understated pearl bracelet on my wrist was worth more than Jonathan's annual judicial salary. Speaking of family traditions and maintaining the Harrison legacy, Dad's voice took on the authoritative tone he used when delivering important rulings from the bench. I think this birthday celebration is the perfect time to address some family matters that have been concerning me. The conversation around the table quieted as Dad's commanding voice drew attention from every family member present. His words carried the weight of someone who had spent 30 years making decisions that affected thousands of lives and who expected his family to honor that tradition of responsibility and excellence. When I accepted my appointment to the federal bench 30 years ago, Dad continued, his tone taking on the practiced cadence of someone accustomed to addressing courtrooms and legal conferences, I made a commitment not just to justice, but to ensuring that the Harrison family name would continue to represent the highest standards of professional and personal conduct. Evelyn nodded approvingly, her expression radiating the pride that comes from being married to a man whose reputation commanded respect from senators and Supreme Court justices alike. Looking at Jonathan, Dad went on, his voice carrying clearly across the elegant dining room, I see that commitment being honored and expanded. He's not just following our family's path, he's innovating within the judicial system and preparing to take the Harrison legal legacy to even greater heights. Jonathan straightened in his chair, clearly basking in the public acknowledgement of his achievements. Caroline squeezed his hand, her expression radiating the satisfaction that comes from being married to the family's acknowledged golden child and future patriarch. Then Dad's gaze found me, and I felt the familiar weight of his disappointment settling over the celebration like an expensive but suffocating fog. And then there's Victoria, he said, his tone shifting subtly but unmistakably, the warmth draining from his voice like wine from a cracked decanter. My biological daughter, who at 28 continues to disappoint me with her complete refusal to pursue any meaningful career path or contribute to this family's distinguished reputation. The words hung in the elegant air like the scent of the expensive orchids, beautiful but overwhelming, impossible to ignore. I could feel the attention of everyone at the table focusing on me with the intensity of courtroom lights, probably wondering why this celebration of judicial achievement was taking such a pointed turn toward family disappointment. Victoria graduated from Harvard Law School with highest honors, Dad continued, his voice carrying the frustration that comes from watching potential go unfulfilled. But she refuses to practice law, refuses to pursue a judicial appointment, and insists on working on what she calls technology projects that no one in this family considers serious professional endeavors. Evelyn leaned forward, playing her role as the concerned stepmother perfectly. We've offered her every opportunity: clerkships with appellate judges, positions at the most prestigious law firms in the country, introductions to senators who could facilitate a political career. But she refuses to take advantage of the connections that most young lawyers would give anything to have. Instead, Jonathan chimed in, his voice carrying the condescending tone that successful older siblings perfect through years of being the favored child. She insists on living like a college student, working on computer projects that generate no meaningful income and contribute nothing to society. Caroline nodded sympathetically, though I caught the flash of satisfaction in her expression. It's so difficult when family members refuse to live up to their potential. Some people just don't have the ambition for real achievement. I could feel the weight of generational expectations pressing down on me like the oil paintings of successful ancestors watching from the walls, their silent judgment adding to the disappointment radiating from my living family members. Dad stood up slightly, apparently deciding that this was the perfect moment to make his frustration a centerpiece of the evening's entertainment. Victoria, I've been patient with your quarter-life crisis for long enough. You're 28 years old, living in my house, using family resources, and contributing absolutely nothing to either your own success or this family's reputation. The words cut through the sophisticated atmosphere like a gavel striking wood, sharp and designed to render final judgment. Pack your bags and leave tonight, Dad commanded, his voice carrying the same authority he used when delivering sentences that changed people's lives forever. I will not continue to subsidize your refusal to grow up and take responsibility for building a meaningful life. Evelyn nodded approvingly, clearly having been consulted on this decision in advance. It's really for your own good, Victoria. You'll never develop real independence or professional responsibility as long as you have this safety net. Jonathan leaned forward, apparently feeling the need to support Dad's ruling with additional legal reasoning. The Harrison family has a reputation to maintain. We can't continue to enable behavior that reflects poorly on our professional standing and social position. That's when I smiled. It wasn't a bitter smile or a defeated smile. It was the kind of calm, confident smile that comes from knowing something that no one else in the room has figured out yet. Sure, Dad, I said, pulling out my phone with the same casualness I might use to check the weather. But first, let me just make one quick phone call. Dad's expression shifted from authoritative to slightly annoyed. Victoria, this is not the time for whatever dramatics you think will change my mind. I've made my decision and it's final. Oh, I completely understand, I replied, scrolling through my contacts until I found the number I needed. I just need to take care of some financial housekeeping before I pack. I dialed the number and put the phone to my ear, speaking clearly enough for everyone at the table to hear. Hello, this is Victoria Harrison. I need to cancel all Harrison family accounts effective immediately. The table fell silent except for the soft classical music playing from hidden speakers and the distant sound of grandfather clock in the hallway marking the quarter hour. Yes, that's correct, I continued, my voice remaining calm and professional. All credit cards, investment accounts, trust fund distributions, and monthly allowances for Richard, Evelyn, Jonathan, and Caroline Harrison. Please execute the cancellations immediately and send confirmation to my personal email. Dad's fork clattered against his plate as the implications of what I was saying began to sink in. Evelyn's face went pale beneath her carefully applied makeup. Jonathan's mouth fell open mid-chew. Also, I added, still speaking to my financial advisor, please transfer the deed for the Harrison family mansion to my personal holdings. The property was purchased with funds from my technology companies, so ownership should reflect that reality. What are you talking about? Dad whispered, his voice barely audible. I ended the call and placed my phone calmly on the table, where everyone could see the screen showing confirmations of the financial changes I'd just implemented. I'm talking about the fact that everything you think you own, this house, your cars, your credit cards, your investment accounts, has been funded by my technology companies for the past 5 years. I explained, my voice remaining steady and matter-of-fact. The silence that followed was so complete that I could hear the soft whisper of expensive fabric as people shifted in their seats, the barely audible hum of the mansion's heating system, the distant sound of wind moving through the trees outside. 5 years ago, I continued, when Dad's federal pension was cut and Jonathan was struggling with law school debt, I started quietly covering family expenses through a series of shell companies and trust arrangements. Every mortgage payment, every credit card bill, every luxury purchase. It's all been funded by Harrison Technologies. Jonathan was staring at me like I was speaking a foreign language. Harrison Technologies? My artificial intelligence company, I clarified. We develop machine learning systems for legal research and case analysis. I founded it during my 3rd year of law school and sold it for $240 million 18 months ago. The number hung in the air like a gavel's final strike. $240 million. More money than Dad had earned in his entire 30-year judicial career. After the sale, I continued, I founded Harrison Digital Solutions, which creates blockchain-based legal documentation systems. That company is currently valued at $470 million, and we're in negotiations for an acquisition that could push the valuation over $600 million. Evelyn found her voice, though it came out as barely more than a whisper. You're worth $600 million? Conservative estimate, I replied. The patent portfolio alone is worth about $200 million, and we have licensing agreements with law firms across 43 states. Dad finally managed to close his mouth, though his eyes remained wide with disbelief. Victoria, if this is true, why didn't you tell us? Why did you let us think that I was a failure? I finished gently. Because every time I tried to explain my work, you interrupted to tell me why I should be pursuing a judicial appointment instead. When I mentioned developing legal AI, you said technology would never replace human judgment. When I talked about my patent applications, you told me that real lawyers practice law, they don't play with computers. I pulled out my tablet and showed them the Harrison Technologies website, which featured testimonials from Supreme Court justices and federal appellate courts that were using our AI systems to research case precedents. After a while, I continued, I decided it would be easier to support the family financially while building my companies privately, rather than constantly defending my career choices to people who had already decided what I should be doing with my life. That's when Dad tried to pay for dinner. He reached for his wallet and pulled out his American Express Black Card, the same card he'd used to pay for family expenses for the past 5 years without realizing that every payment was being covered by my companies through an automated system I'd set up. The card was declined. He tried his backup card. Also declined. I don't understand, he said, his voice carrying the confusion of someone whose financial foundation had just shifted beneath his feet. These cards have never been declined. That's because they've been automatically paid by Harrison Digital Solutions for the past 5 years, I explained. Along with the mortgage on this house, the insurance on your cars, Evelyn's spa memberships, Jonathan's student loans, and Caroline's shopping expenses. Caroline looked stricken. The shopping expenses? Approximately $47,000 per month, I confirmed, showing them the financial management app on my phone that tracked every family expense in real time. Plus another $32,000 monthly for Evelyn's beauty treatments, fitness trainers, and wardrobe consultants. Jonathan tried his own credit card, probably hoping it would work. It didn't. This is impossible, he said, his judicial composure cracking for the first time since I'd known him. I'm a state superior court judge. I have my own salary, my own accounts. Your salary covers about 30% of your actual expenses, I replied, showing him the detailed financial analysis I'd been tracking. The rest has been supplemented through the Harrison Family Trust, which is funded entirely by my technology companies. Dad sat back in his chair, his earlier authority completely deflated. Victoria, we had no idea. Why would you support us financially without telling us? Because you're my family, I said simply. And because I could afford to ensure that everyone lived comfortably while I built my companies. I didn't need credit or recognition. I just wanted everyone to be happy and secure. Evelyn reached across the table and took my hand, her eyes bright with tears. Sweetheart, I'm so sorry. We had no idea what you'd accomplished or how much you've been caring for this family. I know you didn't, I replied, squeezing her hand. And I forgive you. But I hope you'll understand why I can't continue funding a lifestyle that comes with the expectation that I should pack my bags and leave whenever you're disappointed in my choices. Dad cleared his throat, his voice rough with emotion. Victoria, about what I said earlier. You mean about packing my bags and leaving tonight? I asked with a gentle smile. Well, technically, since I own the house now, I suppose you could pack your bags if you'd prefer. But I'd rather we all stay and figure out how to be a family that supports each other's actual achievements rather than demanding conformity to predetermined expectations. Jonathan leaned forward, his earlier arrogance replaced by something that looked like genuine respect. Victoria, I owe you an apology. And I'd like to learn more about your legal AI systems. They sound like they could revolutionize how courts handle case research. I'd be happy to show you, I said, pulling out my business card. Harrison Digital Solutions has been working with several federal courts to streamline legal research processes. We could probably develop something specifically for state superior courts. As the evening continued and the family processed the revelation that their youngest member was not only financially independent but had been supporting their entire lifestyle, the conversation shifted from disappointment and judgment to curiosity and respect. Dad asked detailed questions about the legal applications of artificial intelligence. Evelyn wanted to understand how blockchain technology could secure legal documents. Jonathan expressed genuine interest in incorporating our systems into his court's operations. But the moment that mattered most came when Dad stood up to make a toast. Victoria, he said, his voice carrying the same authority it had earlier but with an entirely different message. I owe you more than an apology. I owe you gratitude, respect, and recognition for what you've accomplished. He raised his glass toward me, his expression carrying both pride and humility. You didn't just build successful companies. You built them while taking care of your family without asking for credit or recognition. That's not just business success, that's character. The next morning, I reinstated all the family credit cards and financial accounts. After all, taking care of family was never about the money, it was about making sure love comes with respect.